He's ruling the entire world. Basically, he will command that everyone receive what's called the mark of the beast. Who's ever heard of the mark of the beast? And the mark of the beast is going to be something, the Bible says, in your right hand or in your forehead, and that no one will be able to buy or sell without having this mark. Now, people might have read this a few hundred years ago and said, how can you do that? How can you make people not be able to buy or sell unless they have this mark? Can't we just pull out cash? Think about the way the technology is. This money that I hold in my hand, this Federal Reserve note, it's a piece of paper. It's worthless. It does not have any intrinsic value.
When you see a cashless society starting to develop, more and more we're getting away from using cash.
There will be a time when physical money is just...
It does not have any intrinsic value.
When you see a cashless society starting to develop, more and more we're getting away from using cash.
There will be a time when physical money is just going to cease to exist.
So is paper money a relic of a bygone era?
95% of the transactions in America or more now have nothing to do with physical pieces of paper or coins.
Have you ever wondered if one day cold, hard cash will simply cease to exist? It's a reality that some say that we should accept. Greenbacks and coins have become an inconvenience.
The principle is that we have to move this economy from a cash-based economy to a cashless economy. This involves the banks, it involves the telecoms companies, it involves providers of ATMs and POSs, it involves a cultural change.
Just what do you call money these days? Is it a handful of coins and notes, or are cards taking over? And are some forms of money coming to the end of their lives, like the check?
Suppose every store in your town said, hey, we're not taking cash anymore. Well, suppose they said, hey, we're not even going to take checks or credit cards because there's too much fraud, too many stolen credit cards, too many bounce checks. It has to be electronic transaction.
Because let's face it, the paper money's not really worth anything anyway. It's a piece of paper. Might as well be monopoly money. It's not gold, it's not silver, it has no intrinsic value. So first, they've gotten us used to using pieces of paper that are worthless as money. Today, I can exchange that piece of paper for goods and services. But if somebody said tomorrow, that money's not worth anything, it wouldn't be worth anything. Because you remember the Confederate States of America? Remember the Confederate money? People saved up Confederate money in the mattress. Guess what? It wasn't worth anything. So they could do that to you too. And just say, well, your paper money's no good. Now it's all just in your account. It's all tied in with your Facebook and your YouTube channel and your Gmail. And it's great because there's no identity theft. You don't have to worry about leaving your wallet at home. You don't have to worry about your credit card being stolen. It's all just completely cashless. We can control the drugs because there won't be any way to have a cash transaction. It's to prevent crime.
It's sci-fi technology that's about to enter the checkout lane, all in the name of
speed and convenience.
You'll be able to buy anything from bread to beer if you agree to give the store your ultimate identity.
It scares the heck out of me.
Once you have your groceries scanned, now what do? Touch your index finger to the image reader and you've paid in about 3 seconds, all with the touch of your fingertip.
It's called biometrics, an automated way to recognize you based on your unique biological characteristics.
Do not be sold on this because of a convenience.
Today it's a fingerprint, tomorrow a microchip. Maybe that ushers in the mark of the beast.
Donnie Attaway quit his management job at Quick Trip when the convenience store chain told him he had to swipe his finger to clock in and clock out.
And although it may be optional today, who knows about tomorrow.
Experts say biometrics are about to pervade every aspect of our economy and daily lives.
And you put your finger in there, and my name comes up, and she's got all my information.
And it's that quick?
It's very quick.
Love it?
Love it.
People across the world already use biometrics. The U.S. government, the airlines, gas stations, even Walt Disney World uses technology. They can read guest blood veins in lieu of carrying day passes.
This one world government is going to have so much power that it's going to be able to dictate that no person on this earth will be able to buy or sell without having the mark of the beast. Now it's interesting, the King James Bible very clearly says that the mark of the beast, this mark...
Why don't you own apartment buildings? Seriously, why don't you own these big apartment buildings?
The mark that will be required for you to buy or sell will be located in their right hand or in their forehead. This could be some kind of an implantable chip, where in order to buy or sell, you're just going to need to scan this chip.
What's going to happen one day is that they will say, this paper money, that $100 in your pocket, it's worthless. You must scan to pay. It's all electronic now. Now you go to the grocery store, you ring up your groceries, and then just... And if you don't have a hand, no problem, because we'll put it in your head, because everybody has a head. You know what I mean? And you'll just, check out at the checkout. And so all the money will just be electronic format. And it's already going that way. Cell phones are starting to have a scanner. So it could be basically, let's say there's an exchange of goods and services between two people, right? Okay, that's going to be $10.50. Go ahead and give me your right hand so I can just scan it with my smartphone. Okay, now I just took the money from his account. Oh, you just gave my son a piano lesson. Let me get you paid. Think about it now. The smartphone can be used to scan the mark of the beast, okay? And you can't buy or sell without it.
In medical news tonight, a chip the size of a grain of rice could save your life.
You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
I think it is possible to free us completely of our wallets and keys using biometric technology, if that's what people want in 10 years' time.
The challenge is to safeguard our privacy in a brave new world.
New microchip technology now makes it possible for the emergency room staff to find out about your medical history at the touch of a computer key.
So many emergency physicians have to operate blind. We have to make medical decisions not knowing what medicines you take or what allergies you have.
Harvard Dr. John Halomka says this radio frequency identification chip may solve that problem. He had it implanted in his right upper arm. A scanner reads an identification number. Those 16 digits are then entered into a secure website where his medical history is stored. EMT worker Brian Orsatti says the chip could help emergency workers.
One of the big things is if you ever have some type of trauma patient where they come in and they're unable to give you their information and or their medical history.
Dr. Halomka says the benefits are clear.
I'm a rock climber, and I believe that if I fall off a cliff and you find me unconscious, the comfort of being able to scan me and figure out who I am outweighs my concern for privacy.
The chip is encased in unbreakable glass and is about the size of a grain of rice. The procedure is done with anesthesia and is relatively pain-free.
It's like putting a knitting needle under your skin.
But in this case, he says getting something under your skin is a good thing.
It starts like this. Here's his cat. 5 years later, we found out she's back. Then somebody said, well, if it's good enough for a cat, Suki, I've got mom and dad at home, and dad kind of wanders off sometimes, and maybe we could put in a microchip with his medical records in case something ever happens. Sounds good. And then somebody says, well, if it's good enough for my cat, good enough for grandma and grandpa, what about my baby? No more Amber Alerts. Never having to worry about that fear of an abducted child. And then we say, well, you know what? Maybe we should have them. And on that chip, we're going to have everything. Credit cards, driver's license. Think about it, Metro card.
Thinking.
No more wallets. Think about this. You don't carry keys anymore. So the question I want everybody at home to ask is that a good idea? Because that's where we're going next.
It's too sci-fi for me, I'm telling you that.
It's here.
Much. I know it's here with pets and in a limited basis, but for humans
but your
and
child.
Your child, I mean, come on.
People in the past might have wondered, how could this be implemented? How do you stop people from buying or selling if they don't have a mark? But we see now the technology developing that would make it very easy for no one to be able to buy or sell without having this mark. If this were allowed to continue, yeah, you're right, all believers would be killed. Because think about it. Look at the technology. Look at the surveillance cameras that are going up everywhere. The satellites. Now the police are using drones with cameras to fly around and spy on you. Have you seen that? Surveillance drones. You have them now they're installing microphones at street corners where they can listen in to what you're saying. And it's like the dystopic novel 1984. That's where the way our country is going, to where it's a total surveillance society. Used to be you just got on an airplane. Now you got to be by the TSA. Now you got to go through a body scanner. Now you got to be scanned. You got to be patted down. You've got to have ID with you at all times. And police are constantly, where's your ID? There are your papers. Your papers are not in order. And that's the country that we're living in now.
The United States Federal Reserve is considering the creation of a digital dollar. Cyber currencies have many supporters, yet critics warn they would be a privacy nightmare.
One currency expert claims the removal of cash would push America closer to a totalitarian state.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell told the House Financial Services Committee in March that the Fed had already begun testing a digital dollar.
So what we're doing is experimenting in kind of early stage experimentation. How would this work? Does it work? What's the best technology? What's the most efficient?
Just like paper dollars, a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, would be issued by the Federal Reserve. Those pushing for it say it would have several advantages over physical money. They say it could be used to fight inflation because the Fed would have more direct control over the money supply.
Opponents warn that it could be a very effective instrument of government control.
Physical money has been called one of the last bastions of privacy. Laws like the Bank Secrecy Act have already stripped away most of the privacy from bank accounts and financial transactions. Currency expert James Rickards says a digital currency would move America closer to a totalitarian state.
If I buy anything, the government doesn't know it. MasterCard kind of knows it, but even MasterCard uses product codes. So they don't say, Jim bought a Snickers. It says Jim bought miscellaneous merchandise at a retail place. So the government doesn't know what you're doing. But with this new central bank digital currency, they will, because they maintain the ledger. So if I buy, Ron DeSantis' new book, or I go to a Donald Trump rally, or whatever it may be, the government, using artificial intelligence and having that information, which they would, are able to profile you. They say, well, this guy kind of looks like a conservative and maybe he's MAGA. And then you've got a target on your back.
Expedia. All your trip, all in one place. Download the app.
On Bigo, you can watch the freshest content from the coolest streamers.
Bigo, Bigo!